Which incoming transfer will have the biggest impact on the Auburn football program? We tell you on today's Locked On Auburn.
Well, Zach, I actually just finished crushing some chicken farm, and I am freaking ready to rock and roll.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. It's a Wednesday, so we bring in Mike G of the War Rapport to celebrate War Rapport Wednesday. Hey. And Mike G, today, you and I, we are ranking the incoming transfers' impact on the Auburn football program. We're going 7-1 of the 7 guys. I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to ask you to lead this off, Mike G. Of the 7 current transfers that Auburn has coming to the program, who will have the least amount of impact?
I'm going to go with Eugene Asante.
Oh, okay.
The North Carolina transfer. We have Owen Pappo returning. Eku Leota really showed us a lot. We've got some young talent there. I know a lot of people are worried about linebacker after, Zacoby, made his exit.
Yeah.
But I like this kid. I do like him. So in no way is this an indictment on his talent. But as far as positions are concerned, I'm not sure that he's going to have a huge impact this year. So I think he'll be a contributor, certainly, but not a huge impact.
Well, I think he's going to play, right?
Right.
And so there's a few guys on this list that I don't think are going to play in 2022 or beyond for Auburn. I do think Eugene Asante plays in 2022. I think he has a chance to start even in 2023. So he is not 7th on my list. He's a little bit higher. He's not super high, but he's a little bit higher. But I get where you're coming from. I absolutely get where you're coming from, especially with the way Auburn's recruited that position. There's going to be some real battles for the starting spots at that position next year too.
Certainly.
So I totally get it. My 7th is Dazalin Worsham. I just don't really see a clear path to playing time for this kid in 2022 or really even beyond that. Battled injuries consistently. I think he's got the traits that you want to see. But, you look at the future of this wide receiver position, and I think there's some rising stars on this depth chart. And I don't think Dazalin Worsham is ever going to really hop above a Jay Fair, or really anybody in this most recent class. I'll even throw, Amari Kelly in there. I just don't see the upside really eclipsing those guys when you look at the future of the Auburn football program, and also his impact this year. I think will be very little, if any at all.
Yeah, I think that Dazalin has a chance if things aren't going well to get on the much since Seth and Schwartz left. It's been, people are worried about experience there. So you've got some guys, you've got some incumbents there in Shedrick Jackson and Malcolm Johnson that I certainly think are going to be on the field. Beyond that, I think there are a bunch of question marks about who maybe in those first 2 games, if Auburn is blowing them out like they should be.
Yeah. All right, I'll list my number 6 first. You're about to get mad at me. Are you ready? Robby Ashford.
Oh, okay. I'm not mad at that.
Once again, I don't think he really plays. You and I kind of went back and forth on, is he going to have packages drawn up for him? And once again, I cannot stress, if Robby Ashford wins the job, I think it's going to be great for him, and he's going to have an awesome opportunity. And I think that really means he impressed his team and the coaching staff. But I just don't predict that that's going to happen. I don't think you do either. I do think we differ on his potential upside a little bit. And I do think we differ on, if he's not the starter, how often does he get on the field? And so I'm in the camp of, Brian Harsin historically does not use backup quarterbacks. He doesn't use mobile quarterbacks. It doesn't really seem like a natural fit to me. I think Ashford has the ability. I think he won the spring game as far as, the most impressive player, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. So as far as potential impact on the Auburn football program, I got him at 6 out of the 7 currently.
Yeah, it's hard to see a clear path. Let me put it that way, a clear path for anybody at quarterback right now. So I don't necessarily disagree with that. Robby Ashford has a ton of talent. He's got elite athleticism. He's a two-sport guy.
Yeah.
And he can throw the football. He's a quarterback. In talking to him, he hasn't shown us everything that he has to offer. And even in the spring, they ran kind of like a limited package for him based on the amount of the playbook that he was able to absorb this spring. Right. So, these guys, it's really hard to project out a quarterback for these guys that have come in because they have so much catching up to do on the system. I like Robby Ashford, but I agree. I just think this year doesn't have to be his year. If he's going to be the guy, this year doesn't have to be his year.
Then I think you got to ask the question of like, if it's not this year, when is it? Because if he loses the job, whether it's to Zach Calzada, TJ Finley, and I guess for the sake of the conversation, we'll even put Holden Geriner in here. All of those dudes are going to probably be the starter for multiple years. And then, if it is Zach Calzada or TJ Finley, and let's say they have an outstanding year and they don't, use all of their eligibility and they go to the draft. I mean, I think that would be every Auburn fan's pipe dream at this point, but it's just like, let's assume that happens. It's probably Geriner that's next.
Yeah. Maybe.
I don't really see it.
Maybe it's just, again, really hard to project with quarterback. My number 6 is Jayson Jones.
Okay.
So, again, in terms of potential impact this year, I think he's going to see the field. But I'm least worried about things on the defensive side of the ball. So,
are we doing specifically this year, Mike G?
Or just this year.
Okay.
This year. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, Jayson Jones has an immense amount of talent. He's a big guy too.
Huge.
Guy. He's a big guy. He's athletic.
Right.
He's smart. Just all the things that you would want in a defensive player. I think that we're pretty solid on D-line though. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the competition looks like there. And when you talk about potential impact, a lot of those guys are going to get a chance to contribute, because we traditionally have rotated a lot of guys on that defensive line to keep the line fresh. Right. So all those guys will have an impact, but I think it's going to be more of a collective effort on defensive line than any single guy, dominating.
I get that. And yeah, who's going to be the bigger bodied inside guy that's not the 3 technique. Right. Jones has a chance to be that. So does Marquise Burks, which is probably the projected guy right now, but that'll be a fun battle to see nonetheless. All right. Who is our number 5 in regards to impact to the Auburn football program moving forward, grading all of these transfers? We'll tell you in just a moment, but first I got to tell you about our friends at Built Bar. Built Bar is the protein bar that looks and tastes like a candy bar. And look, what they are putting out right now is incredible. Look, imagine dipping your finger into that plastic tub of birthday cake frosting, then opening your eyes and realizing it's just 150 calories and 16 grams of protein. That's what it's like to eat one of these bad boys. These birthday cake puffs by Built Bar. They're delicious. 150 calories, 16 grams of protein. And it keeps you full because it's got all that protein inside of there, and it tastes delicious, folks. You need to go check it out. Go to built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off. That is at built.com. Mike G, before we jump into our 5th transfer on this list, what's going on at the War Report?
Lots of interviews. We are interview central this summer, so bringing Auburn fans the content that they want to see. I mentioned Jayson Jones at number 6. We finished up an interview with him right now. I think fans will be really interested to hear this guy speak. Man, he's just a great pickup for Harsin and the squad. I really think that in the interviews that we've done, the players that they're bringing in are bringing a lot to the table, and I'm just looking forward to seeing how that translates to the field.
Yeah, fantastic. Be sure to check that out. Just search the War Report on YouTube. My number 5 is a guy that you already mentioned, Eugene Asante, the transfer from North Carolina. And I have him where he is behind these other guys because, I don't think he's a starter, and I think there's a chance for all these guys in front of him to start. but I do think he will be in the rotation. I do think he'll be involved on special teams. So I think he'll play. And I think the guys behind him probably won't play this season or at all moving forward. I think Eugene Asante has the upside of a starter after 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. My number 5 is Dazalin Worsham. So again, much maligned group for wide receivers. And if things haven't turned the corner, I expect this year Harsin to try everything to get it right. So if we are dropping balls at the same rate that we did to begin last season, I mean, we were on pace to drop like 100 balls through like 3 games. Yeah. They fixed that issue, but I'll be interested to see how the receivers perform. I think they're going to do much better, but if for some reason we're still having problems, I expect them to give Worsham a look.
I hope he gets the opportunity, because that then makes it easier to go get guys in the portal moving forward, right? Because you can say, hey, we brought this guy in the year before, we brought Demetrius Robertson in, and we really tried to get him a bigger role, but he wasn't really ready for it, it seemed like at times last season. So it's like, I'm there with you. I'm pulling for him. I just don't think it's going to happen, but we'll see. We'll see. You want to do your number 4 first?
Yeah, my number 4 is Robby Ashford.
Okay.
So I have him dead smack in the middle here. I think it could go either way for him this season. I could see a lot of potential scenarios where he becomes a contributor this year, or maybe not at all. So I've got Robby dead smack in the middle. It's hard, right? I don't think anything's solidified at quarterback. So, there's a lot of potential for all of these guys to carve out some role for themselves. And Robby's kind of an interesting position where it doesn't really matter who wins the job. I think there may be a potential role for him or package for him in this offense just based on, again, elite athleticism. So he's a quarterback, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Harsin use Ashford in some critical situations or some specialty situations this year.
Yeah, we've never seen Harsin do that before. Would he do it this season?
Hey, listen, when you go where you never been, you got to do what you never done. So SEC is a whole new game.
That's
baby.
The secret. That's the secret, is you need to use your mobile backup quarterback.
Yeah, SEC is a whole new game, and there's going to be a lot of pressure. I don't expect him to leave any tricks in the bag this season.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, anything that makes the defense have to think a little bit more, I'm all for. Just don't do what Gus Malzahn did with those kind of situations and just run the same play every time. Actually have some, actually be creative with it.
Looking down the list here. Yep. Same play.
Right. You may have some different motions and it's like, oh, they're setting something up. It's going to be, then they never use it. It's like, okay, got it. My number 4 is Jayson Jones. Similar reason that you just said. But I think he has a chance to be a starter. I don't think he's going to be, but I think he's going to be a key guy in the rotation, especially in short yardage situations, especially in early downs. Curious to see how much they put him on the field in 3rd and long and 2nd and long situations. But that'll just be kind of fun to see how, Coach Brumbaugh uses that defensive line rotation in different scenarios, and who he sees as a pass rusher and how much they expect opposing offenses to run the ball on 2nd and long. I think that's going to be a fun tendency to look at, and how they use all of these guys, and also how opposing offenses sub in and out, and how much you're able to kind of, play matchups when it comes to that.
I agree. When we interviewed him, he strikes you as the kind of guy that is going to always know his assignment. I think Jayson Jones comes off as the type of guy that coaches will trust because of what's up here. And, so I think there'll be a role for him. I like him in there. I just think there are a lot of options on defense.
Sure.
And according to him, there's great competition going on between everybody. So I'm excited to see what he has to offer.
Yeah. And I believe him. I believe that there's competition happening everywhere for sure. I think it's interesting, Mike G, before we move into each of our top 3, that we had the same 4 players in 4 through 7, just in different order, which means we have the same players in 1 through 3 in probably different orders. So I don't know. Fun observation. All right. My number 3 is DJ James, the transfer corner from Oregon. Once again, I think he has a chance to start. I think his path to playing time is very, very clear. I think he could be a really good boundary side corner. And I don't know exactly how Coach Schmedding is going to use the corners, if they're going to have a guy that's just on each side of the field, or if they're going to have a guy that's boundary and a guy that's field side. I'm not sure. But he was really good in run defense for the Oregon Ducks last season. He was very physical, but he seems to be pretty comfortable away from the line of scrimmage too, which is something that we haven't always seen these corners do, especially in this new style of defense that Derek Mason introduced last year, coming from the Kevin Steele era. And I think that could be good. I think he's going to be able to do a lot of the things that are asked of him in 2022. So he may not be a starter. I think he's going to be, but he may not be. And regardless, he's going to play a lot.
Yeah, listen, DJ James played a lot of football last year. This is not a guy that's coming in with no experience. Like, he played football in the Pac last year. So, talking to Robby and Jay Fair and some of these other guys, DJ James is a guy who I believe will contribute this year as well. Yeah.
Cool. Who's your number 3?
My number 3 is Craig McDonald, the new guy.
Too low.
The most recent one. Now, look, Smoke left a hole. And depending on who you talk to, even with Smoke there was a hole. So, like, there's some improvement that we can make at the safety position. Mm-hmm. And I think that Craig, hear me out, Zach.
Okay.
Craig McDonald is going to be one of these guys that, based on how he does, we're going to tell a lot about this staff's ability to be able to evaluate players. I think he's an interesting pickup. I think he has a chance to contribute. What his ceiling is and how well he does in this scheme will tell us a lot about how much or little stars will matter to this staff during their tenure here at Auburn. So He was a 3-star guy coming out of high school. He's still a 3-star guy in the portal.
He's
they see something.
3-star guy.
Yeah, they see something in this kid. And if you're right, then maybe I have him too low, but I'm intrigued by this one.
Yep. I'll talk more about Craig McDonald when he pops up on my list. Mike G tells you his number 2 in just a moment. But I want to tell you about our friends at rockauto.com. With the ever increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need for your car, truck, or SUV. So you're going to go to these stores, you're going to go to the dealership, and they're going to do the same thing you can do just by pulling out your phone and going to rockauto.com. And then they're going to call and say, hey, we got your part and you got to go pick it up. But if you go to rockauto.com, it'll just ship directly to your door. So you can save time and you can save money when using rockauto.com. Their prices are reliably low for every customer. They have everything you could need, from brake parts to tail lamps, motor oils. They even have new carpet for your car. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car, truck, or SUV. Right, Locked On Auburn in their How Did You Hear About Us box, so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, and all the parts your car will ever need. That is at rockauto.com. All right, Mike G, I think I know who your number 2 is. I assume it's the guy I just talked about, but I don't want to give anything away.
Yeah, my number 2 is DJ James.
Makes sense.
Now, I keep referencing these player interviews. Guys, DJ James has burners. He is allegedly top 3 fastest guys on this team right now.
I'll take it.
So he's got elite speed. Now, when we talked to Robby Ashford, Robby tried to sell us that they've got like 30 guys that run under 4.4, something crazy. But then the more we talk to players, it seems like Auburn does have elite speed at almost every position. So I think that losing Roger, what team doesn't have a need for a fast corner, for a guy who can make up ground, if he's beat, get to a spot before a receiver. When you're fast and the scheme and your assignment, you can be dangerous. I got DJ James at number 2.
I think that makes sense. I think that makes total sense. What may not make sense to a lot of people is who I have at number 2. I have Zach Calzada at number 2.
Why, Zach? Why? Okay. All right. Explain yourself.
I think this has more to do with who I have at number 1 versus who I have at number 2. But no, I think Calzada can do a lot for this offense. I think he's going to win the starting job, which I was in the TJ Finley camp throughout spring, and I just don't think he did enough. I think it's going to be Zach Calzada's to lose at this point. And so I think he's going to have a ton of impact on this program. I'm just really high on who I have at 1. So there you go. Okay. You have Calzada at 1. He's the only player you haven't mentioned.
Yeah, he's the only one. Yeah, I've got him at 1 because if we're to believe that this race is between TJ Finley and somebody else, it's going to be Zach Calzada.
Right.
And I think TJ left the door a little open this spring. So, or at very least didn't shut it. Zach Calzada, we didn't see him during spring, but he was getting work. And I'll tell you, a lot of folks have been saying that Calzada is working his butt off this spring. Right. So nothing is better for a team than 2 guys competing and trying their best to win a job. I could see it going either way. I like Calzada. I like the things that the players are saying about him. I always like hearing about how hard guys are working behind the scenes. And everybody we've talked to has talked about his work ethic. So you're going to see in the first 2 games, we're going to see both TJ Finley and Zach Calzada. So
you think we're going to do that?
100%. Because if we're not as a pack, not as like a package deal, I don't think they'll switch out quarterbacks. I think we're blowing some team out, and you see one of those guys early third quarter.
Okay,
gotcha. Right is how I think whoever the number 2
do they come in with the starters, or does the whole second team unit come in?
That's a great question.
Because there's a big difference between the 2, right?
Yeah. If I had to guess, I would say that whoever's his second team is going to get at least a drive or 2 with the starters if it's going the way we hope it goes.
Yeah, I mean, if Auburn's up 42-0 or 42-3 against Mercer, and backup quarterback comes in, like, is John Samuel Shanker still in the game catching passes?
Yeah, I think that was a problem for TJ last year. Was when we got up, we put him in. He got in a couple of games, but we put him in with the backups.
Yeah, and then when he had to play with the starters, it was too late in the season. Right, yeah. Everybody was just so far ahead of us. Right.
I'm thinking that the coaches learn from that mistake and get whoever is number 2 some work with the starters, because you may need them whether you think you are or not.
Injuries, I'm there with you, man.
Yeah, injuries happen. So I got Calzada at the top of my list because the SEC is a brutal grind. And I hope that all these guys stay healthy. But if injuries happen, another lesson I think they should have learned from last year is you have to be able to go to number 2 and not leave your number 1 out there on one leg like we saw them do twice last season.
Right.
So
you're right. You're absolutely right. My number 1 is Craig McDonald. I am firmly, Mike G, planting my flag in the Craig McDonald hill.
I'm not mad at it.
And I'm prepared to die here. I'm prepared to die on this hill. I think he's going to be an incredible addition. It may not be day 1, but I think he will be an incredible addition to this football program, but specifically the defensive backfield.
I'm here for it. I'm here for that. But like I told you, if you're right, that means that we have some elite evaluators of talent on this team, because it means they're not just chasing stars, right? They're actually evaluating guys and finding guys who are a good fit. And now,
to be clear, I agree with you. And I think we're already seeing Harsin and this staff go after dudes that aren't ranked in the 247 sports composite. And then they offer them, and then a bunch of SEC schools offer them the next week. I think they're doing a good job at that. But also, the way we're assigning stars to guys in the transfer portal, it's early, and I don't think we've really figured that out yet. Because
that's fair.
I would much rather have, in most situations, a 3-star guy that's already played and been successful in D1 than a 4-star incoming freshman kid. That's just me. But I would just rather have the experience and the higher floor, but that's just me. Also, the reason I have Craig McDonald 1 and Zach Calzada 2 is I think we went over this on a Facts or Not a few weeks ago, and I've answered this question before in a mailbag or something similar. If you had to bet, does Auburn have 1 quarterback start a game this year? Or do they have more than one? And it's like, I bet different quarterbacks start in different games this season for whatever reason. And so I think just by the nature of that being our response, it kind of lessens it a little bit.
I see. Like I said, I'm not mad at it.
Sure.
I'm super excited to see the fruition of all the work that they've done this offseason. How they evaluate talent, is why we're talking about these discussions about how guys rank. Right. I think they're doing a great job bringing in talented, smart, high character guys that have both high mental and physical ceilings. So it should be fun to watch.
No, I think it's a good group. And I think it will continue to grow. If you are commenting in the YouTube comments how dumb we are, you can do that, but you have to give us your list as well.
That's right.
Give us your list as well. You can't just shoot us. You got to shoot us and gotta give us what the correct rankings are, please. So then if you're watching on or listening via podcast, just check us out and let us know what you think in the Locked On Auburn Discord. That link is in the episode description down below. Mike G, one more time, how can people find you, watch you, hear you, all that good stuff?
Yeah, just going over to the YouTubes, type in the War Rapport. Check us out on podcast too. We are the Auburn Express on Apple Podcasts. That's powered by the War Rapport. Lots of great stuff, lots of great interviews coming these next few weeks.
Yeah, be sure to check all that out. This has been Locked On Auburn. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. For your second listen, go check out our friends at Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy doing a great job over there. John Garcia, Sports Illustrated recruiting expert and Locked On insider, joins us tomorrow. All right here on Locked On Auburn.